November 1942. A German soldier scrawls in his diary by the light of a dying fire. His words are simple and terrifying. Stalingrad is no longer a town. It is a hell where men die like dogs. He was right. This was the epicenter of human suffering, a city of rubble, ice, and blood. For the men trapped here, the world had shrunk to a single ruined building, a frozen trench, the barrel of a gun. This is the story of the battle that defied imagination, the battle that broke an army, shattered a dream of empire, and changed the world forever. This is Stalingrad. To understand how this nightmare began, we must go back to the summer of 1942. Adolf Hitler's war machine was sweeping deep into the Soviet Union. But this was no longer just a military campaign. It was a personal crusade. Hitler set his sights on a city that bore his enemy's name, Stalingrad. Capturing it would be a symbolic decapitation of Soviet morale. For Joseph Stalin, losing it was unthinkable. The order went out, not a step back. The Volga River was the last line of defense. On the other side, there was only defeat, two titanic egos, and between them, a city of 500,000 people, destined to become the graveyard for nearly 2 million souls. The storm broke in August. The German Luftwaffe unleashed hell from the skies. In a matter of days, thousands of tons of bombs turned a modern industrial city into a jagged, smoldering landscape. One Soviet soldier recalled the sound of the bombing as a symphony of annihilation. But in their fury, the German bombers created an unexpected fortress for the defenders. The rubble-choked streets and shattered buildings became a deadly maze, perfect for defense. The battle for the city was now a battle for every factory, every house, every pile of bricks. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg, the War of the Rats. And in this war of rats, a new kind of warrior emerged, the sniper. Men like Vasily Zaitsev, a shepherd from the Ural Mountains, who used the ruins as his hunting ground. He and his comrades turned the city into a psychological battlefield. Every German officer who looked over a wall, every soldier who ran across a street, did so with the terrifying knowledge that a single, unseen bullet could be the last thing he ever knew. The stress was unimaginable. This was not a battle of front lines, but of 100 front lines, in every cellar and on every rooftop. Amidst the chaos, the humanity of the individual soldier struggled to survive. A young German lieutenant wrote home, "We have fought for 15 days for a single house. Already by the third day, the dead are lying in the cellar." This is a war of extermination. On the other side, Soviet reinforcements were often thrown into the fray without rifles, told to pick one up from a fallen comrade. They fought not just for Mother Russia, but for the man next to them, for the rubble they called home. The city was consuming them all. While the world's attention was fixed on the street-by-street fighting in the city center, Soviet General Georgy Zhukov was planning a masterpiece of deception. Under the cover of autumn darkness, he orchestrated a massive secret buildup. Over 1 million fresh Soviet troops, thousands of tanks and artillery pieces, were moved into position on the flanks of the German salient. Their target was not the strong German front, but the weaker, overstretched Romanian and Italian armies guarding its sides. The plan was called Operation Uranus. Its goal, not to push the Germans back, but to trap them entirely. On November 19, 1942, the quiet of the frozen steppe was shattered by a thunderous artillery barrage. The Soviet pincers slammed into the flanks. The Romanian lines crumbled within days. The trap was sprung. In Hitler's headquarters, the news was met with disbelief. The mighty Sixth Army, his best, was surrounded. The noose had tightened around 250,000 men. Panic turned to stubbornness. When his generals begged for permission to break out, Hitler gave one fateful order: the Sixth Army will stand fast. I am not leaving the Volga. They would be supplied by air. It was a promise that would prove to be a death sentence. The pocket the Germans held became known as the Kessel, the cauldron, and it began to boil. The Russian winter descended with brutal fury. Temperatures plunged to 30 degrees below zero. Rations dwindled to a slice of bread and a thin slice of horsemeat. If they were lucky, frostbite claimed fingers, toes, lives. Men burned their own furniture for a few minutes of warmth. The Luftwaffe's air bridge was a catastrophic failure, delivering a fraction of what was needed. The Sixth Army was slowly, inexorably, starving and freezing to death. On Christmas Eve, 1942, a German soldier tried to find a moment of peace. He wrote in his diary, "The most beautiful Christmas of my life was at home. with the tree and the presents. Today, we huddle in a frozen bunker. We got one piece of hardtack and some stew that was mostly water. We are ghosts, waiting for the end. The contrast between the warmth of memory and the frozen reality was a torture in itself. The end came in January. The Soviet forces began their final offensive to carve up the pocket. The last German strongholds fell one by one. In a final, cynical act, Hitler promoted the commander of the Sixth Army, Friedrich Paulus, to field marshal. No German field marshal had ever been captured alive. The message was clear: he was expected to commit suicide. But on January 31, 1943, in the basement of a ruined department store, a tired and broken Paulus surrendered. The last pockets of resistance held out for 2 more days, then fell silent. The battle was over. The silence that fell over Stalingrad was deafening. What was left was a horrifying spectacle, a vast field of frozen, twisted corpses and the shattered remnants of an army. Nearly 91,000 German soldiers stumbled into Soviet captivity. Emaciated, frostbitten, and diseased, they faced a new ordeal. Few would survive the long years in the gulags. Only about 5,000 would ever see Germany again. The German public, fed on propaganda of victory, was stunned. The myth of the invincible Wehrmacht was shattered at the Volga. For the world, Stalingrad became a beacon. It was the first catastrophic defeat for Hitler's ground forces, the turning point of the Second World War in Europe. But for the Soviet Union, the cost was almost incomprehensible. Over 1 million Soviet soldiers died. The city was utterly destroyed. Yet, from this sacrifice, a powerful national myth was born, a story of resilience that would define the Soviet, and later Russian, identity for decades to come. Thank you for watching. If you believe in preserving these vital stories from our past, please support us by liking this video, subscribing to History Untold, and sharing this documentary with others. What other chapters of history would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below.